these there's so many apps, right? They're like, oh, we can do this and we can do that for just £299 a month. I'm like, what the fuck? But people are buying it though.
Yeah, I know, mate. People are stupid. That's why.
I know. But then you've got like ones like Gamma that we use every day, which I think is fantastic. Which is probably they're underpricing themselves for what they can do.
100%. They'll go up there. Watch.
Yeah, it better go up. Cool. So welcome to the Sync podcast, Patrick Patricios. We go way back. This is going to be the first way too long. It's going to be the first episode of a series of interviews that I do with friends that I've met along the way and people of significant influence and power. And you are neither.
Mate, I was going to say, you're giving me way too much credit there. Influence and power. More like powerless and influenceless.
No, we go way back. More than 17 years I was counting the other day, which is just insane. And I think it's insane that we've lasted this long in the industry. And I think you're the best person to introduce yourselves right from the beginning, from kind of when you got your first cut and your first entrance into the music business as a producer and songwriter, all the way to where you are now, which is one of the most influential people of 2024, was it?
Yeah, 2024.
That's incredible. And also, that's not even in the specific sector of the music business as you used to know it. It's something else, which we'll say for a minute. But yeah, start from the beginning.
Well, as you said, I'm powerless and influenceless. So this is going to be very short and boring for everyone who's watching and listening. No, I'm playing. So I'm Patrick Patricios. I've spent the last 17 years in the music industry. A very, very long slog in my stripes. Started my career with Simon Cowell, as many people have. Simon gave me my first, first step on the ladder into the music industry. I had my first hit with Il Divo back in 2010. That record sold, I think, 6 million copies. And that was really the start of a very, very long journey in the music industry. I think before actually getting into the music business and record producing and songwriting, I was a musician. I was a session drummer. So I played drums for people like Coolio and Big Brothers and all the cheesy pop acts from...
Hang on. How the fuck did you play drums for Coolio? How did you play drums
You
for
know
Coolio?
the story.
Yeah, but they don't.
Touche. All right, we're going to go back way back. Okay, cool. So finished school, dropped out of college, auditioning as a drummer up in London. Ended up auditioning for a band called Big Brothers. I think a lot of people might know Big Brothers and might not. And it was really random. So I was playing at the Urban Awards. Do you remember the Urban Awards? Do you remember the Urban Awards? They were back in like the late 90s,
of course.
early 2000s.
That was like the rival to the Mobos.
Mobos, yeah. So I met Coolio at the Urban Music Awards, and Coolio, I remember he went behind the bar, helped himself to a fridge and took out like 4 bottles of champagne, and I was just there watching, and I was just like, this guy's a legend. But I was like, yo, I was like, all right, boy, what's happening? He just looked at me like, yo, what the fuck, man? And that was it. Like, we literally started chatting. So we started chatting at the Urban Music Awards. And then he was literally like, listen, like, I need a band. Like, we're going on tour. Like, you're clearly a drummer. I watched the Big Brother show, and that was it. Like, a week later, we're in rehearsals, and yeah, I was playing drums with Coolio. Crazy.
What was the experience like? Because a boy from Wales, and then you've got one of like a hip hop legend that kind of sorts you out and says, okay, this is the guy for me. This Welsh 6 foot to.
Mate, I think he was just high. I think he was definitely high because I turned up and I was the only white guy in the band. He's like, seriously. He
That's brilliant.
he was definitely high. Clearly, I was doing something right. It was
Yeah,
mental though. It was yeah.
that's
There's too many stories for this podcast, but it was um it was incredible. I mean, that was really my first like big artist. You know, I mean,
Mm,
R.I.P. Coolio.
yeah.
He was a one hit wonder, right? Gangster's Paradise, but still, I mean, just playing for somebody like that and being from a little village in Wales, I was just like, oh my god, this is like
That's
wow.
crazy. So you went on
I
like some of
remember,
the biggest stages with him, and
yeah, yeah.
wow,
I
that's
remember I have to dig out the pictures because I think Kangol, do you remember Kangol, the brand? They sponsored us. We had like, it was like literally black and white, like t-shirts, like half white, half black
yeah.
t-shirts. Like we had the Kangol, like the little like Peaky Blinders Kangol hat. And I used to wear it backwards because I thought I was an absolute G. Clearly not.
That's sick. That's sick. So then we
That,
fast forward a couple of years, and you kind of focus on music production. You start getting good at that. That's kind of when I met you.
yeah.
Um,
But
how?
I think an important part of the story that you're missing is
Mm,
between being a live musician and then getting into the music industry, that was like a period where I was like, I'd spent all my money, I'd fallen out with
ah,
my family, I was
ah,
homeless.
shit. Oh my goodness. I completely forgot. It's not like we're best friends or anything. I completely forgot that you were homeless. Okay, maybe speak to the people about that because that's important.
Yeah, I think it's an important story because I think everyone's got their own stories, but I think if you have dedication then and drive, you can really achieve things. So
Yeah.
I guess at this point in my life, what was I like early 20s, mid 20s, spent all my money, fallen out with everyone, didn't have a place to live. So I was
Mm,
homeless in London. I found a spot up in North London in Wembley. There was like an industrial estate that was my home.
mm,
Used to sleep on the bathroom floor of one of the buildings up there. But I guess that was really when I learned about music production. So I had an accident. I ripped my tendons in my hands. Couldn't drum anymore. Didn't want to move home. Didn't want to go back to Wales and take over the family business.
mm,
And then I remember getting a tube in central London into the Apple store on Regent Street. Went upstairs. At the back, they had Logic Pro, keyboard set up, headphones. And back then, I think Apple still is very open to people going in and like trying their products. But back then, they were kind of really encouraging people to come in, use our stuff. I mean, we, man, I remember going in there and people were like using their phones on display and like having phone calls and like it was like that back then. So I was like, oh, cool. What's this? What's Logic? Like I can play keyboard, so I'm in there with my hand all banjoed up, like just play play keyboards and like, whoa, you can change sounds on this thing. And that was it, man. Like that was really I guess, the birth to me becoming a producer. So I would literally spend every day from morning to night in the Apple
mm,
store on Logic, like making beats, like hadn't had a clue how to make a beat. And then from there, I was kind of just like figuring out this whole other industry that I didn't know, which is obviously
mm.
the music business. I would email A&Rs, record labels with like jazz fusion beats that I was making. Like, what? No song, just like synth melodies and like cheesy pop, like Ron Burgundy stuff. And that was it. I was just emailing everyone, and I became famous for that. But that's another story. But it led me to where I am. Um, and I remember one of the first publishers that got back to me was Notting Hill Music, who I'm still
Mm,
signed to all these years later.
mhm,
And they basically came back saying, "Who are you? There's something in what you're doing. Let's try and figure something out." So they sent me over a brief, and the first brief I ever received, it was for this Chinese artist, and the brief was take a famous piece of classical music and popify it. So I did exactly that. I took Moonlight Sonata, turned it into a kind of pop classical piece. Anyways, fast forward, I ended up sending that to Psycho, Simon Cowell's label. They heard it, sent me an email back a week later. Who the fuck are you? Come in, sit down, see us. We want this for Il Divo, and then that was it. That was literally the start of kind of going through this process of being a live musician to homeless to not knowing what I wanted to do, and then sitting down in front of Simon and the team and them saying that we have one of the biggest classical pop acts in the world that want to cut this record. And then, yeah, the rest is history, man.
That's insane. That's insane. So your music production career kind of took off from there. And when did I meet you? Was it around, I don't know, 17, 18 years ago?
Yeah.
We were on a writing camp. And so you were heavily into like pop and pop productions. Were you doing like K-pop stuff as well as like Western world stuff? Were you still pitching records to artists that were kind of well known, like the Britney Spears of the world and people like that?
Yeah, I think that you and I met on, it was an Amsterdam trip, wasn't it?
Yeah, Amsterdam, yeah.
Yeah, and I think, I don't know at what point that you went this way and thought, I can't deal with the pitch and records game, and I went, I don't want to be an artist, I'm going to go this way because this is the only thing I know.
Yeah,
I don't know if it was back then, but clearly we took very different paths. And
we did. I felt like your path. So you had a top five, top three hit with the Little Mix as well.
Mhm.
Was it one or
that
two
was
or three?
that was 2016. The Touch came out in 2016.
Touch for the Little Mix, yeah. So
Yeah.
my record with them was 2013. So then
Ah.
after that, so I produced a record called Move for Little Mix, which hit number 2 and stayed at number 2 for like a couple of weeks. But that was my first real big thing in the Western world where I could say, yes, I'm a producer, come and get me. And at that point, I was like, fuck pitching music anymore. I fucking hate all these artists. I don't want to be last in the queue when there's 100 producers trying to fight for the same shit.
Yeah.
I'm going to start my own thing, which is when I started Disciples. Now, you had Touch. You were still doing records for artists, but then you veered off into something completely different. So, yeah, talk to me a little bit about that. 1 second. As I leave.
You better keep this in. You're such an arsehole. Talk to me about one of the most important critical changes in your life. Peace. What a dick. What an absolute dick. So I guess here's the thing, right? You do anything for a long time, you love it, but then that thing becomes a slog and the passion goes out the window. So for me, that's exactly what happened. Had the success, worked with everyone from Little Mix to Britney Spears to Holly Mears to Noah Cyrus, Flow Rider, you name them, I've done it. But I think as producers and writers, sometimes we put so much into an artist where that artist kind of controls our situation. Right, so you rely so much on an artist releasing a record, which is then going to generate income. Because let's be honest, at the end of the day, we're all in this because we love it, but we have to make a living. So as soon as an artist decides not to release a song one day, or a record label told you that this song isn't a hit record, you're kind of like, well, what do I need to do and how do I generate an income? So for me, that's exactly what happened. I got to a point where I was like, I'm a little bit sick of somebody in an office telling me that this isn't a hit record when they're not really music people in the sense that we are. So I thought, you know what, I need to venture off and look at other potential avenues where I'm using my skills as a producer and writer, but look at different industries. So that's when I started to look at music for brands. And this is still quite, I mean, we're looking at about 2020. End of 2020, and I was in LA at the time, and I was kind of like, there's so many brands out there that have the potential to do something amazing when it comes to music, but the formula was a brand will have a budget, they'll put the budget into content, and then the music will be an afterthought. So let's just use like crappy music that we can get offline for free instead of actually thinking about what is the sound of the brand. So for me, I was like, I need to capitalize on this and actually do something pretty unique and different here. So that's what I spent my time on. So I was producing music and getting in touch with brands like Reese, Lotus Cars, Virgin Airlines, Singapore Airlines. All these brands just started to open up because I was like, listen, you have a massive opportunity here to do something unique when it comes to music. So it was kind of like a transition between not leaving the music industry, but kind of coming out of that industry, which for me, I just felt was quite toxic at the time. And then just coming into a whole other world where people didn't actually realize what the music industry is, but they had a fascination with it because it was like, oh, this is all glitz and glam. So if we can work with somebody from the industry, suddenly we've got an insight to how we can be better as a brand.
Mm.
Yeah.
That's incredible. So, do you feel like you were kind of pissed off with the music business as we knew it? Because my thing, the reason why I shifted gears, even from just being a producer and writer for other people to doing it myself, that was a pissed off era. I was like, why would I be like pouring my heart out on these fucking songs, right? For then someone in the office to be like, either two things, not sure, don't like it, do 15 versions,
Mm,
and then we'll get back to you, and then not get back to us. Or I like what you've done, I'm going to take this and give it to another
somebody
producer
else.
to finish without
Mm,
telling you. So all those things was like, do you know what? Fuck this. I'm going to do my own band. I was already working with Gavin and Luke anyway. I
mm,
love them. I trust them. They're sick producers, sick DJs. Let's just do our own thing. As soon as I did that, mate, I made that change. Everything changed for me where the power is in my own hands. And now,
mm,
fast forwarding to the third chapter in my life, which is SyncIt, um, it's the same thing. I'm sick and tired of how things are done and how we're being treated, especially in the music licensing industry, where as a signed writer or producer, you are the last in the conversation when
mm,
a licensing offer comes in from a brand, TV, film, or gaming company. And you kind of have to just approve it and not be part of the
part of the process.
negotiations in any way. So I was like, that's weird. We made
Mm,
the records you are exploiting for right reasons or wrong reasons, but yet you also, within those negotiations, have the ability to completely crush the opportunity, which would have been a great opportunity for me for many reasons. One, to pay back whatever advance I had with a label or a publisher. Two, to get exposure for my music because it needs exposure these days because streaming is not enough because things are
mm,
not just audio only, it's visual based. And three, exposure for me as an artist.
mm,
Like because you weren't happy with the terms, now no one does the deal. And I feel like with you, because we've been so close for so many years, I saw a turning point when you said in your mind, you know what, fuck this music industry. I love making music and I love sound, but I hate
mm.
some of the people in it. And one, they didn't move fast enough for you. Two, they weren't transparent with what they were thinking or doing. And three, you were able to take music and sound and deliver it to an industry which actually appreciated it.
Mm.
That's what
But
we
like you
want.
said, it's bringing the power back into our own hands, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think far too many times we've both been on the receiving end of exactly what you just said. The
Yeah.
deals where, I mean, I can count more times than I got fingers the amount of times the publishers have been involved in sync deals or potential deals where they haven't moved fast enough or they've wanted more and then the opportunity has just disappeared into something else.
Yeah.
So I think bringing the opportunity back to yourself, and I think here's the thing: number one, you have to have the right frame of mind to be able to kind of take yourself away from the equation. Because I think a lot of record producers and songwriters, they, I don't want to say become obsessed with like having hit records, but you kind of get into this mindset where I have to write, produce for free, for free, for free, and be dictated by all of these people who don't really know and don't really think about money. It's more about I need to have a hit record with a Britney or a Little Mix, and that's all I care about. When in
Mm,
fact, like that same talent can be taken into other industries, what you and I have done, and then
mm.
suddenly generate income and wealth, but then at the same time be in control of our own destiny without getting too deep,
Yeah, no, no, exactly that.
you
Do you
know?
feel like so I need to know I don't think people really kind of understand exactly what you do. So I've said that you have basically taken what you already do and just given it to an industry that actually gives a fuck and actually
Mm,
treats you like what you should be worth. And I think
mm,
for most producers and writers, that's all we want. Now you've decided to kind of take your talents to an industry that understands how important sound and music is. Could you just explain a little bit about one of the brands you're working with, be it on the car
mm,
side of things, and what you've actually done for them and
mm,
how it's improved whatever they're doing?
mm. So I think when I was working in the brand space and kind of coming out of the music industry, I was looking at automotive. I think number one, I had a friend who was working at Lotus Cars at the time, and we had a loose conversation, and he kind of he kind of put the idea on my head. I mean, at the time, he was like, "Listen, Lotus is a heritage brand. We're 100 years old. You know, famous car company, and they were looking to do electric cars, so getting into a completely different space." And he said, "Have you ever designed sound for a car?" And I
Mm.
was just like, "Sound for a car? That sounds fun." And that was really the first kind of introduction into what I'm doing now. So again, you know, it's taking what I'm good at, creating records, producing sound design, whatever you want to call it, and then literally just kind of copying and pasting it into a new industry. So for me, that was automotive.
Right.
And the minute I started to get into automotive, I guess, start my new career in automotive, it was a completely fresh page because number one, I came from this glamorous and glitzy industry, right? That automotive isn't. So they're looking at me going, "Oh my God, you've produced all these records for all these huge pop stars. That's incredible. Now you want to come and make some bings and bongs for our cars?" Like, oh my God, like you're amazing. You're so talented. There's me like, oh yeah, of course I am. Yeah, I'm going to charge you $1 billion. Um, so it was. I even look like the $1 billion. Um, so do you know what? It's just profession, right? Using your skills and being appreciated and going into an industry that isn't music business, that's refreshing. And actually
Mm.
having a sort of listen, there's obviously different. There's obviously, I guess, red tapes in place in every industry, but coming into something completely new with a fresh perspective on things, that's what I enjoyed. So Lotus was the first sort of car company I worked at, designing cars for all of their electric models. Then suddenly it's kind of like starting in the music industry again, kind of getting in touch with labels, but getting in touch with car brands and trying to kind of sell who I am as a producer and a person. So that then led on to work with Hyundai, which then led on to work with 47, which are now McLaren. So then suddenly you're you're basically bringing a sonic identity to these brands. So it all comes back to record producing, right? We do the same thing for artists. You create a hit record that people can kind of relate to and love. I was
Mm.
literally doing the same thing, but for cars, where people can kind of hear a car or get in a car and hear the sound and go, "Oh, that's a so and so car." So it's just literally just copying and pasting. Obviously, with the graft and the grind that went into it as well, didn't
Mm.
happen overnight, but it's using our skills to kind of do better in different industries. I think that's the thing that's missing from a lot of people, and a lot of
Yeah.
people don't think about it like that. Like I said, record producers and songwriters, they love what they do, but there's a massive world out there. So why would you just stop at being told that you need to change your lyrics 15 times?
Yeah. No, absolutely.
You know?
So do you feel like it was kind of the same process as trying to work with artists as well? So you see how you're reaching out to A&Rs, reaching out to managers, reaching out to artists in the automotive industry. Were you doing the same thing? Were you reaching out to all of them independently? Were you trying to flag them down, saying you can offer this service that no one else can because of your history in the music business and what you've done? I
Mm.
mean, your record speaks for itself, working with however many people and having so many hits under your belt. Was that an easy transition, or did you also need to educate some of these brands on why music is important and how you could help them?
Yeah, I think both. Definitely educating. I mean, listen, a sales pitch is a sales pitch, right? Doesn't matter what industry. So I think, well, the first step is trying to communicate with somebody that understands what you're trying to do. So automotive is a very, very difficult industry to get into, but luckily enough, the people I contacted and got in touch with were all innovators and all people that actually understood that, hey, what I'm offering, kind of from a sound point of view, it's an important thing for us as a brand and for us to differentiate from, if it's Hyundai, like how can we be different to Nissan or all the other brands? So I think that was the first thing. Um, but then I think the educational piece is a massive piece as well. I mean, I'm still educating automotive brands on why they need this service and how you can be different and what is the differentiator and how can you be better than your competitors. But then
Mm.
again, sound is a sense, right? Whether it's music or it's sound design, it is one of the five senses. So that's a massive selling point, if you're getting into a car every day and going to work and driving, you want the sounds to be a nice sense and you want it to be part of the environment. It's the same with records that we listen to. You want to listen to something that makes you feel good. So it's applying the same science, but again in a different industry.
Yeah.
And you're not being told to change your lyrics 15 times by somebody sat in an office who doesn't know what the fuck they're talking about.
So true. So fucking true. I don't
No
miss those.
names mentioned.
Yeah. No, we might need to mention some names. Honestly, I can think of 10 already that piss me off.
Mate.
But hey, it's, the industry's changed a lot from when we had our success in it. I'm still in it in the form of working with disciples, and we get to kind of create our own rules. And that's the only part I like. If you're just a writer and producer, it's very, very difficult and almost soul destroying. But speaking to you, it's like it gives people an understanding that, yes, you might want to be a producer and still can be, but also go to where you're loved as well. Like there's loads of industries that don't understand music and sound, but really want to implement it in whatever product they're selling and whatever experience they're pushing. So that leads us perfectly to SyncIt, which obviously I spoke to you about a few years ago, and you were one of the first original investors in SyncIt. Actually the biggest investor in SyncIt, and then you've come on board as a creative director, partly obviously because you see the where this is going, but at the same time, your experience with working with brands and continuing to work with brands, it seemed like a perfect logical fit. And since we've worked together properly within the last 6 months, we've working with Red Bull, and you've worked with YouTube. We've got L'Oreal that we're looking to do business with. We have we're talking to Swatch as well in some capacity. There are so many things that you've kind of spearheaded and brought to the table. And it kind of coincides with what you're doing with automotive. Now, obviously, SyncIt is a platform to have independent artists license their music to adverts, TV, and film. But again, it's putting sound to visual media or sound to a product, much like what you're doing in the automotive industry. You're putting sound to the products that they have. What's your experience with Sync, and why do you think that this platform specifically could be a game changer?
I don't. I'm sorry, I wasn't. My agent didn't tell me this question would come up. I'm so confused. I thought this was an interview about me and my car work. This is really awkward.
You're such a fucker.
Sorry, what? Jerry. I don't know. Shall I just continue and pretend? So the work at SyncIt. Mate, I'm telling you, views, baby, views. So experience for Sync is an interesting one. I think a lot of Sync work that's happened. No discredit to publishers, but I've gone out and got. So I've had Sync in adverts. I've had Sync in American TV shows and so on and so forth. But a lot of them have been buyout. I think I was quite scarred from sync deals before, like I said, when we were waiting around for publishers to sign something off. I mean, as you know, when you write a song, there's at least 3 people involved in a song, so it's not just one person that can sign off on a sync, and they've all got independent publishers and so on and so forth, or major publishers. And if one publisher isn't happy with the terms of a deal, then they'll just go, it's not happening, and then you've lost out on that opportunity. So I think for me that happens so often, and not from my own publisher, but from other publishers and other writers involved in songs, that it kind of left a little bit of a funny taste in my mouth, because I knew the potential of what Sync can earn. And that was the biggest thing for me. I was like, oh my God, Sync can earn so much money. I mean, I've had trailers. I had one of the biggest trailers with Free Guy, which was Ryan Reynolds' movie. And that was a Mariah Carey cover that I kind of trailerized. And it was amazing. But then it stopped, and I thought loads of work was going to flow, but it didn't. So again, it's a completely different industry that's kind of running in parallel to the kind of music industry, but it's its own thing. And there's gatekeepers in that world. So it's very difficult to infiltrate. But then at the same time, I think it's a huge platform for up and coming artists to promote their music, to get into an industry that not necessarily they need to go down the route of a major label and kind of all the faff that goes with that. So I think sync is a massive, massive part of the music business in general,
Mm,
but it's not educated in the right way, as in songwriters, producers, and artists, they know about sync, but they're not educated in such a way that gives them this kind of vision to pursue sync, if that makes sense.
mm, mm,
If I was educated on sync longer and sort of years before, I would have focused more on that and
mm.
kind of aimed towards getting into that industry a bit. So I
Yeah.
think what we're doing at SyncIt is a massive, massive plus for not just ourselves, but all the artists out there and kind of up and coming artists, songwriters, producers to get the music out on a platform that isn't going to faff around and, you know, potentially ruin deals and take months and months. But then at the same time, for the brands that we're talking about, I think SyncIt is amazing because they sometimes have the same problem on their end. They don't know where to go. They'll go to kind of free licensing websites. I'm not going to mention any names.
Mm,
We've heard them mentioned by some brands and they're not happy with the quality of music. So if you can provide amazing quality music on a platform that's easy to use for both sides, it's a win-win situation.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, you brought to the table the fact that bespoke music was such an important role in brands and sync licensing in general, and because it gives an identity to brands without sometimes they don't want to have a song that's recognized already out there against their
Mm.
product. Sometimes they want something unique. But I was thinking that I just want to find great music for great brands. Now, I think what we've decided to do is both, right? So
Mm.
working with some of the brands we're working with, some of them want bespoke pieces of music, which we can do obviously as producers, or we can filter that down to the cohort that we have on the platform already, so they get some brand opportunities. And at the same time, we can license the music that already exists, both released and unreleased, which is also something that's a new proposition. Because imagine
Yeah.
how many producers have hundreds and hundreds of songs just sitting on their hard drive doing nothing, while brands need songs that are kind of bespoke.
Yeah.
Um, in your experience, you know, you've worked with brands, you've worked with YouTube as well. What's the difference between a company like Epidemic Sound, which is more like stock music, and those platforms, not just ours, but those platforms who are trying to deliver real music from real artists? Do you think there's a massive difference in terms of quality? And also, why do you think brands are using Epidemic at the moment?
Good question. I think here's the thing. Companies like Epidemic exist because it's quick access to music, right? And it's
Mm,
the simplest platform. So again, companies like Epidemic, it's a factory where they'll buy out beats or songs. I don't know what Epidemic are doing now, but there's no licensing involved from, I guess, the writer side or producer side. They'll make a beat for $200 and that's it. It's on Epidemic. But because it's just based on creating as many tracks as you can to upload onto a platform, I think the art isn't put into actually producing or creating something that's meaningful.
mm,
Now, I think the reason a lot of brands use Epidemic is, like I said at the beginning of this conversation, all the budget predominantly is put into content and creating a, a content piece for release of product. So it's put into marketing, video, blah 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 blah. Music, in my experience, is always the last thing on the list. So they'll go through all the things on the list. They'll spend all their budget, and it comes to music, and it's like, oh, we have $1,000 left,
mm,
and then they look around and they go, well, we can't get a famous piece of music for $1,000. No way. But then it's going to take us a long time to find somebody to make some custom music. So, oh, we can go and get a piece of music for $200.
mm,
But they don't really think about that piece of music that they've got is accessible by hundreds of other brands. So it could be the same piece of music used on completely opposite ends of the spectrum.
mm,
But for them, it's just about filling the music. And a lot of times, yes, people love music in these companies, but they're not music experts. So they don't know what they're actually looking for that particular product. And I
mm,
think that's the biggest thing that obviously we're trying to re-educate people on. And I think a lot of brands are smart and they kind of coming up to the fact where they know that bespoke is the way forward because suddenly you've got something more emotional emotional tie to the brand, and people can relate a little bit more when they hear something bespoke. I remember I did a piece of music for Reese, the clothing company,
Yeah.
and I had to kind of create something from scratch, and it was a song, and kind of did the whole song, basically songwriting for a brand kind of 30-second film. But when the film came out, customers were saying like, "Oh my God, what's that song, and who's the singer, and all of these things." But it kind of created such a excitement in that community, and that's the difference between creating something bespoke and super refined for a brand to just a random piece of music.
Mm.
And again, I think that's why what we're doing is super important, because we're bringing all of these things to the brands that we're talking to and pushing boundaries on. You don't have to spend $1 million on a piece of music. You know, you can go onto our platform and you can have access to all these artists with different backgrounds and different styles and different places that they're from, who can give you that and much more.
Mm.
So again, it's just reteaching people the way that they think.
Yeah, I love that. It's also like the biggest thing. One of the biggest things for me is, you don't, people want a Taylor Swift song or a Calvin Harris song, but they don't have Taylor Swift money,
Mm,
right? And that's like, from big brands to small brands. But then who is the next Calvin Harris? Who is the next, Don Diablo? Who is the next Taylor Swift? Who is the next Beyonce?
mm,
I think giving artists a platform where they'll be discovered and heard, and then the opportunity comes. I can't see that in other platforms. It may exist, but from my research, I can't see that you're actually giving artists
no.
platform, not just to get their music licensed, but to potentially collaborate with said brand. So
Mm,
we went to New York recently. We spoke with L'Oreal. It was an incredible meeting.
mm,
We had a great time, and there were a few things that came from speaking to one of their brands, because obviously L'Oreal has 47 brands under it.
mm,
35 of them are global and the rest domestic. Um, but how they treat music, some of those brands, is as important as the product itself. Now, can you speak a bit about one of the ideas that we were coming up with about how the music relates to the product, and maybe you could even do it in album form, and the brand could potentially own the music? I think
mm.
brands don't really know that they could kind of do a revenue share or own the music that they can then release to their in-store or online or however they want to do it. And I think that's a really interesting point.
I think it's again, it's the educational piece, right? So for brands, they're looking at this thing, this product needs music and that's it. Or, you know, when we went to L'Oreal and they talked about Sabrina Carpenter,
Mm.
where Sabrina Carpenter was part of one of their product launches, and they got her before she became a megastar because she had grown up loving that particular product.
Mm-hmm.
But I think, again, I say it in every industry, education is so important, and we have to educate people. So the idea of a brand kind of co-owning music, but for artist and for brand, that makes so much sense, because then both get exposure, but then both continuously have a relationship in a world that, you know, that is constantly changing. So if an artist and a brand can coexist and co-own music together, then suddenly that opens up so many doors and so many avenues where an artist who's struggling to get a record deal suddenly becomes the face of a brand, who can then create music for that brand, which then can get licensed into the stores. And then there's 100, 200 stores around the world that their music's getting played in. And then there's PRS, there's PPL, there's all of these other things. So suddenly what you and I are doing is creating an ecosystem. So it goes beyond just, here's a piece of music brand that you've gone on our Sync website and you've found. In fact, we're creating a whole ecosystem for both parties. And I think that's an important thing. And that's an important thing for people to know, if they're coming into our platform, that it's not just your music's going to get picked up for $500 or $500,000. Actually, you could become the face of a L'Oreal brand or a Swatch brand or a whoever brand that we're working with. And I think that's something unique that we're doing. In effect, we're A&R in the whole process. It's
Yeah.
not just something that, it's kind of like we've done full circle.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
We've gone away from this industry that we've kind of made our own. We've gone off and done all these other things, and then we're coming back to the thing that we love, and what we love is what we're doing now. So I'm really excited about everything. I think it's amazing what we're doing.
I literally don't think a piece of music on its own, even with a band or artist that has a relatively good engagement or relatively good audience, I don't think it can be not attached to some sort of visual anymore. I do
Exactly.
not believe a song can make it without some sort of, we call them vehicles or engines. So in this instance, the vehicle and the engine will be a visual project or a physical product.
Exactly.
That's it. So which means sync licensing is only going to increase in value because of that fact. So you see how we were talking to Gina last week, Gina Tucci, who
Mm.
used to be Atlantic. She created Big Beat and found
Yeah.
Skrillex. Um, she was like, music, it's not the same. We don't consume it the same anymore. And
Mm.
I said, well, that's true. We consume it differently now. So gone are the days where we consumed it just by listening to it, be it on the
Mm.
radio or be it even through streaming. We now listen to music through something visual.
Yeah. 100%.
And that's kind of lazy in a way from the consumer, but it is what it is because we live in a very visual world, right?
Mm.
So my son, for example, he likes music, loves music, but he only will find songs he likes because it's based on the game he's playing, or it's based on the film he's watched, or it's based on an advertisement that he's just seen,
Mm-hmm.
right? So now you got the two senses that are working together. You got sight
Yeah.
and sound.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how we create magical moments. Be it
Yeah.
if you want to be an artist that has millions of streams, or if you want to have a great sync deal, they both have to come with some sort of visual.
Together. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm definitely really excited. So what do you think is going to happen to the music industry? Let's go back to the music industry now. I like talking music industry with you because it's weird because obviously we love music. We still make it, or you make it a little bit less than I do, but we still love the actual craft of making
Yes, we do.
of making the songs, right? But the music business side of it feels like it's crumbling around us. You have, more people doing independent distribution deals rather than signing to labels. You have
Yeah.
artists that are struggling to find to make ends meet, so they have to have a second or third job sometimes just to sustain their art. You've got managers who have to take on multiple artists, which means their attention is spread thin across
Yeah.
multiple artists because one artist at 20% can't sustain like their livelihood.
Yeah.
It's changing in a way that it looks a little bit desperate,
Mm.
and I'm wondering what you think about that. And are you happy that you're kind of out?
Oh, I'm so happy I'm out. Watch, there's a little red dot on my. I can't do that. That'll take that out. Um,
I'm keeping it in.
yeah, I'm definitely happy I'm out because I think the when you're in an industry for so long that you're trying to constantly get hits to generate income, the passion goes out the window and it becomes more about sustaining.
Mm,
I think I remember when I was in the industry and it was more about posting something on Instagram that you had a hit record than what it was going to generate.
mm, mm,
It was more about the clout. It was
mm,
weird. Like it was a weird, quite a toxic place to be when you think like that. And it's like,
mm,
oh, I just want to have a hit record so I can post it and let everyone see that I'm one of the writers or I produced this record.
mm,
People start to lose their minds a little bit in that world. I'm not going to get into too much detail, but I've been in situations where you kind of don't post somebody and you don't tag someone, and then people lose their minds, and it's like. But anyways,
and now you don't have Instagram because of that.
exactly, 100%. Now I'm carefree.
Yeah.
Um, I think the music industry is always going to exist to some degree, but how I don't know. I mean, the A&Rs that we knew for so long, they're either right at the top now, they've gone away and they've created their own bespoke agencies or management firms or whatever they're doing, like Gina, for that reason. So I think there's, like I said, I think artists and up and coming artists need to realize that there's a whole world out there and there's a bigger platform than just the music business. Um, and I think there's so many ways of releasing music now, as you said as well. We can
Mm.
go up and release something on a DSP and it's not an issue. But yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of, it's like a love-hate relationship, the music business. In one part, it made us or me who I am. But then I guess the other half is kind of like two fingers up and glad to be rid of that business. I know
Yeah.
you feel the same. So
Yeah, I feel the same, but without trying to discourage the new generation. So it's like, but this is why this platform is built, right? It's for the new
exactly,
generation. It's and existing generations, but it's for the new generations to have some sort of outlet outside of touring and streaming, because
exactly.
all they know, and rightfully so, all they know is the touring and the streaming. So it's like,
Mm,
and maybe some sort of music video. So it's like, how do I get my music there? How do I become this?
hmm
How do I get there? Right?
hmm
In terms of like, instead of monetizing your art so you can sustain a career effectively,
mm.
because the art of the superstar is slowly becoming less and less,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
everyone's becoming more localized with what they like, because you can basically choose what music you want to hear.
Mm,
So gone are the days where the radio are telling you what's good. You now
mm.
choose what's good, which means
Yeah.
you created
TikTok
your
and
own.
Snapchat.
Yeah, TikTok, Snapchat, Instagram. That's what creates
Mm,
the stars, but they're more local. So you're not going to see the Drakes and the Taylor Swifts and the Beyoncés and the Kendricks of the
mm,
world anymore. Not so much anyway on a global scale.
mm,
But there needs to be platforms that can help artists monetize what they currently have, so they can at least sustain a career in some way. And because
mm,
streaming and touring won't do it. Touring can be very, very expensive unless you're a DJ that just takes a USB, and even still, you
mm,
might have to pay for flights and stuff like that, let alone bands who have to pay roadies and everything else that they have. And in streaming, depending on how many co-collaborators you have, £1 million is, sorry, 1 million streams is like £2,600, right? And then you have to share that with the label and everyone else. So
yeah.
there has to be other ways to monetize music. And for you and I, we've discovered that, well, if you look at how music is consumed today, which is very, very visual, the only right passage is going to be some sort of sync endeavor, right? So
Mm,
whether it's placed on adverts, TV, film, whether it's a collaboration in a live activation
exactly.
with a brand, sync
Yeah.
doesn't mean just licensing to adverts, TV, film. It means collaborating on a product and putting music to a product or service in some sort of way, right? But there is one threat to that. There's one out and out threat to that. And I'm quite concerned about it. And it is the likes of Suno, which
Mm,
claim, oh, they do. They create music. They create music based on the learnings of the music of yesteryear, and they
yeah.
can create music incredibly fast. I wouldn't say well, because I've listened
Mm,
to it. It's interesting. It
mm,
definitely helps producers who have real talent think of other ways to make something. So in terms of the collaboration process, it's made it a lot more open in the studio for someone who already has talent.
mm,
But you can see in 5 years' time, you're going to say, I want a song that sounds like Taylor Swift. I want the production to sound like uh, E40. And I
mm.
want the mix engineer to sound like, I don't know, Mark Ralph.
Yeah.
You can do that, right? In
Yeah.
5 years' time, it will sound incredible. So why
Mm,
would brands worry about going through all the bullshit they have to by
mm.
licensing a song and trying to find all the rights holders and making sure everyone's happy on the master side and the publishing side, when you've got platforms like Suno and many others that are coming out saying, well, forget all that, we can create it for
Yeah.
you. What do you
Mm.
think?
I think, well, it's a double-edged sword. I think a lot of the half the crowd are going to be crowds that still want to do it the traditional way. People in power and creatives. So, for instance, the people that we've already met at these brands, they're creative people. So, tools like Suno, I'm quite confident to say it's not really going to cross their desks just because of, they've had experience in the music industry, they're musicians themselves, and they understand the art, and actually crafting something from scratch is more important. But
Mm,
then there's going to be a whole new wave of people that do use these platforms, that do work at these companies and do work at these brands. So it's like anything tech wise, there's going to be people that use it and people that don't use it, which is why I think, again, what we're doing right now is so important, especially to create a mark and create relationships with these brands and companies as well. I think it's all about who you know and how you create something amazing with somebody. As soon as you deliver something incredible, then people want to keep working with you. Um, so it's a tricky situation. I think you're right about the quality right now of AI generated music. It's not amazing. It's a tool to, I guess, help a little bit. So it kind of gives everyone else a little bit of a head start on how do you do something better. Um, I guess the good thing is it hasn't completely taken away the creativeness from people. People still want to create and be producers and writers and artists. They're not completely relying on platforms like this. So it's
Mm.
going to be an interesting one. I think we're going to have to watch quite closely.
Yeah.
Um, or we're going to have to buy the company and just liquidate it.
I like that one. I like that answer. Well, on that note, we've come to the end. But is there anything you kind of want to leave your audience with? Could be about the music industry. Could be about some sort of motivational bullshit that you like. It could be anything that's coming up in your life. Just let people know.
Motivational bullshit. Well, the first thing is do not use SyncIt platform because it's shit. Um, Touche, motherfucker.
Oh, good. That's it. That's the podcast. Bye.
We need to create some music for this because the music they had in the last one was just like some cheesy 70s shit. I was like, what backing music is this?
Epidemic.
No, it wasn't. You're lying.
I'm joking.
I was like, what is this? I feel like a sleazy guy in the 70s going into a bar at like midday. I was like, yep, Nathan's definitely chosen this.
I'm definitely sorry for that. It just, yeah, it was something that I just found and I used it. And
See?
yeah, this is the problem. So instead of creating the music, which takes too long, instead of trying to find rights holders of the music that I like, Epidemic and Splice are there, and you just drop them in. But it's not good. It's not fucking good. As you said, that's like a sleazy 70s,
Yeah, 100%.
and that's the theme music for this podcast, and it needs to change. And there's two award-winning producers here that are saying it needs to change because it didn't make me feel good. But at the same time is of the essence, so I have to quickly.
That's all right. Let's just run a competition and give some poor new producer £100 to create some music.
I'll put the brief on SyncIt.
No, I think yeah, keep going. Stay positive.
You're so terrible at that. You've never been a positive person, have you?
Stay positive. Make money. No, thank you for having me. I'm excited about our endeavor. Go and check out SyncIt, everyone. It's great. Here's to the future of great music.
Awesome.
Cut.
Cool. Nice. Stop that there.